What is up? Felix here for Thomann synthesizers, and Behringer sent me a copy of one of the upcoming synths, the TD3 which is an updated and modded version of the TD3, which in turn of course is a clone of Roland's original TB303. And as most of you know, the original came out in 1981 and was actually meant to emulate a bass guitar. It did a terrible job of it and failed commercially, but then DJ Pierre of the band Future picked one up for 40 bucks and wrote the track Acid Tracks in 1987, which was the invention of acid house, and that's why it is still a classic machine today. Over the years it has developed a cult following, and many people started putting their own twist on them with all sorts of mods, and one of the best known mods is Real World Interface's Devilfish mod, featuring a bunch of additional advanced controls, and this is also where Behringer seems to have taken inspiration from for their new version of the TD3.
Alright, this is it, the TD3 And before I go over all the new features, maybe I should go ahead and give a little explanation on how to actually create patterns on one of these. It's exactly the same as on the original and all of the other clones basically, and it's a bit counterintuitive. Not really complicated, but you really have to know how it actually works. So first you go into the pattern write mode, so this one, because you want to write a pattern. And now these 8 buttons here, 1 to 8, let you select a pattern. So maybe let's, for example, listen to pattern number 3 and press play. Okay, now let's listen to pattern number 1. Okay, what now if we want to delete this? We actually first press clear and then the pattern we want to delete. So now if I press play, it should be empty, no sound, because we deleted it. All right. And now we can actually start to create our own pattern. And it actually happens in 2 steps, which is unusual. First, we go into pitch mode, where we create the notes actually that the pattern consists of. And then we go into time mode, where we have to create the timing for each of the steps. And if you don't do both steps, you're not actually going to hear anything. So let's first start with the pitch mode. Now, this is basically like a piano keyboard, and we can type in our pattern. So I used 16 steps, and now if I go back into normal mode and press play, I should hear absolutely nothing, even though I created a pattern already. Yeah. So now what I do is I go into time mode. And here, for each of the 16 steps, I have to select the timing. And in my case, I want all of these 16 steps to be a 16th note. So I press the step button 16 times. And as you saw, after I pressed it the last time, actually we went back into normal mode automatically. And now we should hear our 16 steps. Exactly. But that's still a bit boring actually. So what we can do is go back into pitch mode. And this is where the classic 303 vibe actually comes from. And we can edit all of these steps individually and give accents or slides or transpose individual sounds. And I actually already know that I want to create an accent on all of the C's. So first impact always. So what I do is I press write. Now it plays the C. I hold it and I press the accent until this one lights up. And now I go forward to the next C. Hold it again, press accent, etc. And the last one. So now there's an accent on all of the C's. You can go back here and play it actually. But let me go back and add some more stuff actually. So let's add some slides as well. For example, on this one. And here let me put it up an octave. This one will now be played 12 notes higher. Here's already my accent. Here I want to create a slide and plus 12. Oh no, just a slide. Here a slide. Here an accent. Here slide. Here plus 12. Here's already my accent. All right. Now let's see what we did. Back into normal mode, and now we can press play. So this is actually already much more interesting. And now let me go over all of the new features. Obviously these right here are the classic features. Cutoff, resonance, which is where your classic acid sound comes from. The envelope, decay, and the accent amount. So by this amount the accented notes are going to be louder. Here obviously tuning, which is roughly an octave to each side. And we can also select the waveform. I always prefer the saw wave actually. And now let's have a look at all of these new features. First of which is going to be an attack feature. So if I turn it to the right, we can actually decrease the amount of attack, so make the notes less plucky. This was not possible on the original 303. Up next, we have this double decay control, and as you can see indicated by these lights, here you can control the decay of the normal steps, which are lighting up here, and here you can control the decay of the accented steps individually, which was also not possible on the original. Here we have filter tracking, which on most synths is actually known as key tracking. So the higher up a note is, the wider the filter is opening of this note. So maybe let me close it first. And now listen in on especially the higher notes and how the filter is opening up on them, but not on the lower ones. Yeah, and why is this useful? I think it actually mimics the behavior of actual organic sounds, like acoustic sounds, because there you would also have more overtones if you have and more higher frequencies if you are actually listening to a higher pitch. So this can make a sound a bit more organic, because otherwise it sounds so artificial. And up next here we have an overdrive, which is not really like a fuzzy, aggressive distortion, but actually more subtle. But gives all of this some grit. And here we have the muffler. I'm not exactly sure what the muffler does, but it also seems to create some additional overtones. Exactly like the filter frequency modulation, which also essentially creates overtones by moving the filter very, very quickly. And up here we have advanced slide control. So we have basically, it's essentially like an advanced control over the slide behavior. Almost like a glide knob, which you find on various other synths. And lastly, we have an additional oscillator, actually a sub-oscillator, which plays one octave below the actual pattern. And this one activates it, and this one actually controls the volume. So let's start at the lowest volume. And a bit louder. And even louder. basically 2 octaves playing the same thing. Alright, now that we got the features out of the way, as you can see, I actually brought my Octa track loaded with some 909 sounds and some breakbeats. So let's take this thing for a little jam. As you can see, I'm actually sequencing the TD3 with the Octa track. So of course you can sequence this via MIDI and you don't have to use this sequencer if you don't like. So let's get into it.
Alright, I guess that concludes my first look at the TD3 MO. In case you have any more questions, let me know in the comments. I'll try to answer every single one of them. Apart from that, thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Peace out.